separate the chunks from the monks. The monks from the chunks. So now we are into that priesthood stage. Into that priesthood stage, which means that you're not going to get too many new people that's interested in things, because that's just the way things are. We go from a faddish level. You know, things are hot and new, just like the Afrocentric movement. Things are hot and new, and the people get into it and all, because our people are always looking for the latest thing. So our people have been reduced to a child. It's reduced to children. Children need all types of new things. You know, they can get some brand new toys. They can play with them a month or a couple of weeks, and then they just end up in the closet. And they need more and more things. Well, that's just the way about like the society is. The society is the same way, not necessarily with black people, but just as a chameleon society. Which means it's a society that is always trying to recapture or trying to go into another form of entity or another form of existence, or something like a replication, but not necessarily a replication of the same thing, but it's almost like it's always changing forms. Always changing forms. It says in the Hermetic book, when it was Tahuti was asking, talking to his son Tot. So apparently Tot is nothing but the pineal gland or the higher consciousness of humans. So the god Tahuti is actually channeling down to the son Tot, which is just the deepest form of the subconscious of it. So it's a conversation going on between the higher realms and the subconscious realm, or the inner realms coming to the manifested outer realms. And he was asking him, he said, is not the man, the woman, the baby, and the child real? And he said, no, they are just mere appearances of reality. He said, if anything was real, it would never dissipate or never disappear. So this particular realm can only have appearances of things, but it can never hold the completeness of the reality of it forever. So it is always waxing and waning, always reappearing, always renewing itself. But this physical matrix cannot, or the physical reality cannot hold on to the ultimate real, or what you would call joy. Now, there's a difference between joy and happiness. Happiness is just a state that you become happy based on something that you just obtained, but you know, a couple of months down the line, once you already had it and obtained it, you could be empty again. Joy is the completeness or fulfillment or realization of self, which is higher than happiness. But on this particular realm, we receive pockets of happiness, and we constantly trying to strive to get that next fix. Get that next fix. Well, this is the way this particular realm actually works down here. And so this society has become the best society to keep that fix going. So that's why they say the pursuit of happiness. Because it can keep the illusion of the fix going to keep people trapped into that particular fix. You see, so we don't really worry about whether we have a mass following or whatever. We only worry about the concentration of the people who are in this thing to see it to the other side. And it was prophesied that it would only be a few people, a remnant. This is in the basic fundamental aspect of religion, because the masses is far too much of a potent situation or a esoteric situation for them to actually grasp this thing, but just a little period of time. Just a little period of time. So my point here is, it's not necessarily how well the movement is, or not necessarily how well you reach the people. It's based on the people that you reach that's already locked in. That's enough. And sometimes that's just the way it is. We got to start looking at this thing saying, it's the way it is because it's supposed to be that way. And we don't worry about, you know what I'm saying, what can be. You see, what can be. Like I said, it's not a matter of trying to get your niche, or what is, some people saying, what is my role? What is my niche? What is my goal in the society?
Yeah.
It's not even about that, because all of this is an illusion. You see what I'm saying? What is it? The only thing that is the most potent thing you're supposed to deal with is what you can obtain and how much information and the bottom line that you can get to the truth while you're down here. Not necessarily on what pleases you and what your role is in the society or whatever type thing, because it's not about that. So it's not about that. So what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to pour libations to the the Congo rites and a few others, you know, by spitting the rum. We're going to pour libations to the Congo rites, and then we're going to go into a couple things. But what we want to do, because we got such a I don't want to say small crowd, but an intimate crowd, we want to start off again with a question and answer, because some people have things on their mind that's fresh on their mind, and sometimes by the end of the day, we don't get to those things because they either be forgotten, or what happens is you got to understand something. Your questions are actually answers. You see what I'm saying? And there's no question too small or too big. You see what I'm saying? Because right now at the time we are in the bunker. Because clearly the last 2 weeks showed you if we ain't in warfare, you see what I'm saying, then we don't know what it is. But I'm going to go into some esoteric side tonight. Last night I went into the physical side of what actually occurred and the conspiratorial side. Tonight I want to go into the esoteric side and see how it lines up with the spirit world, with what went on the past 2 weeks. But what went on the past 2 weeks. But right now, I'm going to pour libations, and then we're going to, after pouring libations, we're going to, after pouring that, we're going to go into a question and answer. Then we're going to go into some other things right now. So, get the rum. You know the deal.
I say.
Zarabanda.
I say.
El Cristo Negro.
I say.
Cristo Mabuete.
I say.
Machola.
I say. I say. I say. I say. I say.
Francisco Lipichi Reyes. El Cristo Reyes.
I say.
Agua.
I say.
Loqueo.
I say.
Come.
I say.
Loqueo.
I say.
Ochicha.
I say. I say. I say. I say. I say.
Omagumu.
I say.
Newt.
I say. I say. I say. I say. I say.
Dan Balaledo.
I say. I say.
Adam Brady.
I say.
Erzuli.
I say.
Eduardo.
I say.
Rebecca.
I say.
Papagay.
I say.
Orumala.
I say.
Olakun.
I say.
Oshun.
I say. I say. I say. I say.
Kalippa.
I say.
Hold on. Let me get some.
I say.
Osa.
I say.
Oh.
I say. I say. I say. I say. I say. I say.
I'm in Rock.
I say.
I'm in Renton.
I say.
I
say.
Andrew.
I say.
I say.
I say. I say. I say.
How about the Kansu?
I say. I say. I say. I say. I say. I say. Come on.
Krishna. Maya. Sekmaya. Metatron. Metrinet. Shakina. Shekim. Shakina. China. Parmaku. Elket. Sutan. Anru. Nelper. Cam. Kalima. Melody. Music. Ornament. Dance. Selket. Hold on, give it a few more. Dionysus. And Prometheus. Prometheus. Titan. Bertra. Danai. Ishtar. Nana. Aphrodite. I started taking
I say.
Hemmitt.
I say.
Layla.
I say.
Hemmitt too.
I say.
Lamont.
I say.
Lamont Yin.
I say.
Diana.
I say.
Sophia.
I say.
Hemmitt.
I say.
Stop it.
I say.
President.
I say. I say. I say.
Hermes.
I say.
Hero.
I say.
Aphrodite. Tarsus. Hold on, let me see a few more. Echidna.
I say. I say.
Jiru.
I say.
Ebru Raha.
I say.
Montefi. Newt.
I say. I say.
Palmardu. Hamerti.
I say.
Valorius.
I say.
Okay, we're going to deal with that right now.
Okay.
Okay, so now what we want to do is right now we want to go into a little question and answer.
All right.
Right now, to get things started. Like I said, I'm going to deal with some couple of things that line up so perfectly. Like I said, this book, Nostradamus 1999 by Stephen Paulius. You can get your hands on it now. This particular book came out in 1996. If you can get your hands on this particular book, this book here is almost blueprint compared to the stuff that actually happened 2 weeks ago. You know, actually, it's blueprint based on the things that happened 2 weeks ago. So we got a few things we want to deal with. We want to deal with on that particular level, but right now I want to go to a question and answer. To get some ball rolling and stuff. You know, anybody got any questions? Yeah, what's that, brother?
Yeah. How you doing?
How you doing?
Thank you for coming out and keeping it real. My question would be, could you speak directly to the bombing itself and all the events that's been leading, that led up to the bombing? And
well, to give a recap, first of all, I want to start off and say that I want to start off this way because on the 24th of August, no, September. No, let me see this one. I think it's the 24th of August. You had the sister Aaliyah died. You had the sister Aaliyah died.
Yeah.
Now the key here is we know that every 2 years, every other year, every 2 years, they've had a ritual going on in this country where they had Diana died in 97. 2 years later, it was John J. F. Kennedy Jr. All this was in the summer solstice now. Then, 2 years later, you have Aaliyah. It turned to black. Now, this is very key because the simple fact, and it is very significant, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. It's very significant to the point whereas she had just completed doing a movie called the Anne Rice, Queen of the Damned. She was working on The Matrix. She had just completed a movie called Anne Rice, Queen of the Damned. I want you to get a book called Anne Rice, Vampire Companion. If you get your hands on that book. In reading the Anne Rice's Vampire Companion, you will find out that Anne Rice's was no lightweight. This was a woman that was steeped in occult information and was a part of some type of secret society. Some type of secret society. As a matter of fact, when the movie Interview with the Vampire came out in 1994, I was up in New York when this movie came out, and I was up at a couple of places, a couple of metaphysical bookstores. When we walked in that bookstore, they had meetings in the back on this Interview with the Vampire, and they was literally they were studying, they was getting the characters right, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is more to it than just a movie. This is an occult following. An occult following. I'm going to say cult following. Cult is just you follow somebody and you blindly.
Right.
An occult following is they're dealing with the hidden meaning and symbology where they cloak within the movies or her particular writings esoteric material, and it's sort of like a new mythology. And these followers come in and cloak within the material. They learn greater information based on occult teachings, or what they occult teachings. And when we say occult teachings, that means that which is, somebody give me a towel, some type of paper napkin. Occult teachings means that which is hidden. Now, know the difference between cult and the occult. The occult is the information that's going on with the secret societies. There's a difference. So anyway, to make a long story short, when I got to Anne Rice's Vampire Companion, her particular book, I understood that when I got that particular book, that there was a lot more going on in this particular information when it came to Anne Rice. I understood that she has worked for some big government, or what we call forces of the secret society out here, and forces of the secret society. And I understood that what we were dealing with here was something that was greater than just somebody writing novels. Now, that means, how does this tie in? It all is significant because Aaliyah ended up starring in this movie, Queen of the Damned. Now, there's only one thing about that. Aaliyah is a person that's virtually unknown outside of the black community. She started off a few years ago as 15. Then all of a sudden, last year she did a movie, 2 years ago or last year, she did a movie, Romeo Must Die. And this stuff started snowballing. Then she started getting these roles. Now, how is this woman a virtually unknown that will actually come in and just lock down two major roles? Number one, the two Matrix movies, because they were going to do 2 and 3 right behind each other. And Queen of the Damned. Now, this is very key to me because I'm like, man, here it is. These white people follow this Anne Rice stuff to a major level. And all of a sudden, they're going to get this black woman to play Akasha, the Queen of the Damned. First of all, they're going to admit that because Anne Rice's whole chronicles in her vampire thing, because there's several books, but it all starts off from the Queen of the Damned. Her entire chronicles start off from a Egyptian goddess or a queen called Akasha. And Akasha is bitten by this particular entity, taken over by this particular entity called Amel, which is Melanin. And this Amel gets into her blood system and thus starts the first immortal vampire that later on is the ancestor to the entire vampire clan. But in here they have Osiris, Dionysus, and all of the actual African motifs. And you understand that what they're actually doing is they're actually giving the people information based on this particular Egyptian history up to now on this particular messianic race and the mysteries of Melanin. Now we look up in the Sumerian mythology, Amel is a literal entity, but in so many words, the Greek word, which is later on Greek, but actually a Middle Eastern word or an African word for male means black. So, all of a sudden these white people, they're going to admit at the turn of the century, at the turn of the century, or the millennium, that the Egyptians is black. You know what I'm saying? They just can't somehow admit to that. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to admit that the Egyptians are black. Then they're going to take this young girl and they're going to put her as Akasha. And she completes this particular movie. Meanwhile, when she completes the movie, she ends up being murdered in the aspect that they even said the discrepancies was she was supposed to get on one plane. They took her off one plane and put her on another plane. And the plane supposed to have caught on fire because it was too much luggage, but I want to know what type of pilot, trained pilot is going to take off knowing that the luggage exceeds the capacity of what the damn plane is able to pack.
Right.
So anyway, to put a long story short, what you have here is you have a ritual sacrifice. You have a ritual sacrifice that went down during Sirius rising. Always keep. Diana dies on Sirius rising. John dies on Sirius rising. This Aaliyah is sacrificed on Sirius rising. And this is how you know that there's something that's going on, there's something that's more of a grand sacrifice. Because you look at the normal TV shows, which normally would not even carry the black talent or showcase black talent. They had this thing on for about a week, like Aaliyah. And if you look at the time they had it on, it was in the same frame, at least the first week of the doggone Praise Center bombing. This was a great ritual that was going on. Now, we must get into the knowledge of understanding that things do not happen outside of an occult or a secret society order. You can say what you want about the plane hitting the building. It is the way that they carry this thing off the next couple of weeks to let you know that this is a pattern that we're locked into, and they're getting ready to lock down the country because of it. But meanwhile, some people saying, well, what's still the significance with Aaliyah? Well, first of all, they killed Diana, which was a white girl in 97. They killed John in 99, and then this thing all of a sudden had to switch to black. You see what I'm saying? Now, when I was here, back here in June, I told you they had the great eclipse in Africa. They had the eclipse in Africa. And when they had that eclipse, it was a perfect eclipse. And when they was doing it all, it was this thing, you know, just trying to get the old astronomical thing going on. And one of the Africans came out and said, this was a sign from God. They said this was a sign from God. And they were like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I know what I'm talking about. He said something big is getting ready to happen this year. He said, you're going to see something, this Africa said, you're going to see something major happening this year or next year. This is what he said on June, well, I think it was the summer solstice, because you had the eclipse, you had the summer solstice, and you had this black hole thing that they've been talking about that opened up on May 23rd. Now, like I said, on the Trade Center bombing went off on the 11th. That Thursday on the 6th, the New York Times reported again that yes, we are in a black hole. Which is the same again. They reported again the same thing, the Discover magazine, 1998. You see what I'm saying? About we was going towards the black hole, and then you have Time magazine, how the universe will end, June 25th, right after June the 21st. So anyway, like a month and 4 days after the actual black, we went into this black hole in May. Now, the key here is they reported again in New York Times. I was up in New York. They reported again in New York Times that we was in a black hole. Now, meanwhile, several things going on. We got the Aaliyah sacrifice. You see what I'm saying? All of a sudden, this girl just all of a sudden, she was getting these rolls and stuff. You know what I mean? She was getting these rolls, and the next thing you know, she's dead. Around the same time, Diana, John, but they've gone to black. Now, meanwhile, to count down on this thing, you got Mount Etna that erupted in Italy around the summer solstice and around Sirius rising. Now, to try to understand what's going on here, I must reiterate what I said last night. This is the millennium. Not last year, this year, 2001. All right? But the millennium only starts on the African time during the first of the year, which is Sirius rising, somewhere in July. And there's a discrepancy on when, but you know, we deal with cycles, we're not really dealing with calculating white man dates and times. His dates and stuff is to mark out his calendar so he can do business and so he can run his civilization. Mostly, the Africans go on a cycle, maybe a 7-day cycle. What I mean by that is, you see those 7-day candles, the 7-day candles, those 7-day candles, the reason why it's 7 days, because they don't calculate time, this is the date. So they give you 7 days and these candles might burn down. They're supposed to take 7 days, sometimes they take only 4 days, depends on the energy. Right. But still yet they're trying to give you the saying, they don't go into, the date is the date. That is contractual and based on business. They go on more cycle. War of a week, war of 3 days, war of 4 days. And that's why you have festivals that go on for 3 days, go on for a week, go on for 4 days. And that's the way the African time deals with it. So now the summer solstice or the African New Year only starts in mid-July. So that means that right now we are only in the millennium now. We have just started the millennium mid-July. There's a book on Carl Carini's book on Dionysus. Dionysus is the Greek version of Osiris. But before you had the Greek thing, this thing went into Greece. It was by a black culture called the Minoans. And they worshiped the sacred bull Apis, which is a form of Osiris in Egypt. And so you get the Minoan society, and this Dionysus, same when he's cut up into so many pieces, same mythology, but there's a lot more. If you want to learn more about Osiris, you got to get the Dionysus myth. You see, or you can go up into India and get the Shiva stuff. Now, I'm still on this stuff, what I'm talking about here. Now, we're trying to tie this thing in. So the African New Year, in Carini's book, he also says that the Greeks, the Romans, and all of your Mediterranean, if you want to call that, and your Africans, the entire region of what we call the ancient world, the New Year only started in mid-July with the rising of the star Sirius. Now, don't fool yourself, because this is linked right in with Islam. This is what we're going to get into tonight, the spiritual side of what's going on, because we're into a holy war. Not because the Arabs say so, it's because there's something greater going on, because the mention of the God in the Quran is Osiris. Allah and Osiris is one and the same. Because they say, well, how do you know that? Because it has the surah of the star where he said, this is the God who created both male and female from one single ejaculated semen. He is the Lord of Sirius. Now, if you're down there to Egypt, that is Osiris.
That's right.
Greek for Sirius is Osiris. You see what I'm saying? So, we're talking about a cosmic war going on. I'm going ahead of myself, but let me break this thing on down. So, in so many words, we're in the middle of the New Year. You got this grand sacrifice that goes on with a black person, because that's the way they roll. You know what I'm saying? It started off with the 2 white people, and you can even go back, you can even trace this thing on back to sacrifices. That girl that died, because we get all kinds of races in this thing. The Hispanic girl that died.
Oh, yeah.
They killed
Selena. All of a sudden, it's always some mysterious death. Her trainer just gets jealous of her or some kind of thing, will steal somebody, and then shoots her. And they say, now, here it is again. Selena, she was popular in the, she was moving popularity in the Hispanic world. She had just done her, she had just recorded her first English album, and was getting ready to be an international superstar. You see what I'm saying? Going back to get this, I believe that you can even get this, you can even trace this shit back to 1973, June the 30th around the summer, because you also have the summer solstice rises, which starts in the June 20 or whatever, the 23rd. You can trace this shit back to 1973 with Bruce Lee. And he's gone been dealing with this stuff a long time. They said if Bruce Lee had lived, he would have been the greatest superstar ever in the history of the world, because why they said, because they got billions of Asians. You know what I'm saying? They got 1 billion in Red China alone. So they would have just been, he would have been one of the greatest superstars. He gets conked out. You see what I'm saying? Then you also have in the fall of that year, you have a grand sacrifice. People don't know this. Now, I know I just want to lay the foundation for this to make a good tape, so just try to understand this. I'm getting ready to get where you're coming from here. Because you asked a broad question, but it's very good. Now, there was another sacrifice that went on what they call cellulite, or celluloid, which is film. Bruce Lee dies on June 30th of 1973. Now, remember now, his son dies in June of 1993. Brandon Lee, he sacrifices going on. He dies mysteriously, they shot his ass or whatever. So he dies in June 30th, 20 years later, he dies in June of 1993. But the following year, Bruce Lee dies in June 30th of 1973. In the fall of the year, they have another sacrifice, because this is all dealing with cinema. That's all the same thing with the Leah thing. They have another sacrifice where they take 3 men. You always got always three people, Jubilee, Jubilee, the three crosses at Calvary, the 3 wise men, the 3 stars on the 3 head spears of the Kabbalah, the 3 pyramids of Giza, the 3 stars in Orion's belt, always 3. You got Bruce Lee, John Saxon, who didn't know no karate, and Jim Kelly. And Jim Kelly, what? They sacrificed him on the movie, and he dies in the movie. That was a ritual sacrifice. Because it stopped with me, the movie. Messed with me for a while. Damn, they killed Jim Kelly. And Jim Kelly could fight, but John Saxon couldn't. Right. Jim Kelly had to teach him in the movie how to kick the other guys behind. See, they always do these ritual sacrifices that's going on. That was a sacrifice. Now, going back to this Aliyah thing. They got this whole sacrifice thing that goes down at a certain time. Meanwhile, the same time the sacrifice is going down, there's something mysterious happening. The mysterious thing that's happening is the dolphins, the sharks. Right. All of a sudden, start biting people. And my brother said, now you notice, natural disasters always hit these white people. You don't ever necessarily mess with black people, but say, things are changing now because we're taking on white people's cause. Because we try to be so much like them. And so now, what you got going on here is you got that brother was down there in the resort and the shark bit his leg off. But usually it's be white people, but the key was, people didn't understand this, all the way up until Labor Day. These white people was getting bit by sharks. The little white boy, then they had another white boy get bit, and stuff. And so, but this is the key that was really scary, was that what scared them was that they had a shark convention. Did you see this shit? It was on NBC News. The sharks had a meeting, a convention. Off the coast of Florida, white people swimming in the water. They wasn't even studying the white people because it could have been a slaughter. Right. It was something, they said it was 100, but when they reported, they said it was almost 1,000 sharks. And they were just meeting in the water. They said they couldn't understand how 1,000 sharks come up on the coast and they're meeting in the water. Did you see this thing? It was a convention going on. And they showed it, and NBC News said it's a shark convention. That's exactly what they said. So there's things that's going on at this particular time. You see what I'm saying? They said, and meanwhile, Mount Etna, which is this ancient volcano in Greek mythology and all, that all of a sudden starts erupting. You see what I'm saying? Starts erupting. So now, they announced, so they got this sacrifice for Leah, because Leah is playing Queen of the Damned, which is the chief woman that starts Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. Get the book, Anne Rice's Vampire Companion. They go into all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden they got her, this black woman, they're going to announce that the Egyptians are black. And they got her, she completes the movie, but in order to do this thing, they immortalize her as a form of Maya, because the word Aliyah means one most exalted high. And they complete the movie, and then they say, she sacrificed. That's a ritual sacrifice. That's a ritual sacrifice. All of a sudden, I go to New York. I'm talking about this whole Aliyah thing. Then, on the 11th, this thing goes down. Of this whole World Trade Center bombing. Now remember now, I'm in New York and we get this stuff off of the local news, and the local news was different because the local news up there, they showed in the buildings when the building started to fall, because like I said, the firemen said there was no way that they didn't think the building was going to fall. That's why they rushed in. Anyway, when the building started to fall, we saw orange lights go off on each floor. Like orange fire go up on each floor. And somebody said, man, they're detonating things, and that's why the buildings fell in the implosion style. Now, you can say what you want about implosion, when they bring down these buildings and stuff like that. You can say what you want. Well, they can say, well, we don't know how they fall. Well, you don't know how things fall when an airplane hit them, they fall that way. I say, but lightning don't strike twice in the same place. I said, if one building fell that way, the other building shouldn't have fell, because it's perfect. That's right. And you get the same done, and you get it so pedestrians can be in the street and don't get hurt, just like they invite you out to see these implosions when you go out and they blow up these buildings.
Right.
So they was detonating these particular bombs and stuff. You see what I'm saying? Now, so in so many words, we talked about this last night. That in so many words, it's like wag the dog. And one of the brothers rushed upstairs and said, always get the information when it first comes out, because by the end of the day, they start changing things.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, they always change things. So always get it at the beginning of the day because they start changing something. It was interesting on NBC News that night. They showed, on NBC News, they showed 3 or 4 buildings around the country being imploded. And they was talking about how these 2 buildings fell in the perfect style of the implosion. Now, I'm like, man, they're really messing with people. Now, to cap off, like I said yesterday, I'm up in New York. 2 nurses I know get off work on their regular shift. And I'm asking the question when I asked the sister Chisholm and her sister, I asked her why she off work if this was a national emergency and they need y'all on call. They said because we don't have no bodies coming in.
That's right. They just saying that.
No bodies whatsoever, but yet there's a mass blood drive all over the United States.
Right.
With the Red Cross to give up blood, and they don't have no bodies. They didn't find no bodies until that Thursday.
Yes, sir.
And still taking blood.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? Still taking blood. You see, now my point here is, we'll give 2 scenarios, and we're going to give some spiritual side of this thing also. Now, there's 2 things that happen. One, it could have been something that they knew that they was waiting on. And they decided, well, listen, we know that something that's major is going to go down. Now, 2 things can happen. Either it could be something that they started themselves, or it could be something that was major to go down. They said, well, we're not really interested in the incident to go down. We know whatever major goes down, we're going to use this as a starting point to lock down the country. That's the same thing that all the people have been telling you before. They're going to give you fear, they're going to take away your rights. To lock down the country. Now, everybody that's been dealing with this stuff for the last 10 years knew this thing was on the way, and even white people talk about it. Whole militia groups. You see, now meanwhile, there's militia groups out here. See, they do two types of things here. The militia groups were not a skinhead type of entity or some old backwoods country crackers. You see what I'm saying? They was afraid that they was giving the country to other races. That's the decoy. Now let me explain. Because the militia group was northern crackers from Michigan. And 98% of where they live, black people didn't even occupy that upper state, Michigan. Black people are only in Detroit, in the mass form. Detroit, and maybe Flint or whatever, but mainly Michigan is a white state. So these crackers are good, but because this all ties in, or what's going on, because we're at war right now.
Yes, sir.
These militias started standing up in the early 90s. It was a white intelligentsia group that said that the country is getting ready to be taken over by these secret societies, and they're going to take the rights from us. And they're going to give you, like Bill Cook and all of them saying, they're going to give you fear, they're going to give you crime, they're going to give you anything to take your rights away. And you will say, just please protect me, I'll be the damn slave. As long as you don't cut off my doggone luxury.
That's right.
Damn.
So, they put the fix in. These intelligentsia groups was popping up. So there's a history behind it. They was popping up all over the continental United States. The government got scared. They said these white intelligentsia groups is one thing for black people running out, but most white people be like, oh, that's them old niggas. That's them old niggas. They what they call it. They always blaming things. They always paranoid, and they always bitter. They got a chip on their shoulder.
Right.
So here it is. These white people were saying, hey man, this damn government here don't love us. What black people were saying the whole time. All of a sudden, these white people started doing this stuff, and all this stuff on the New World Order and these secret societies and all these books was a white phenomenon. We're going to have like 1 or 2 blacks in the field dealing with it, man, and Steve Coakley.
Right.
And a brother named Dawood started out saying some things back in the late 80s. But mainly, this was a white phenomenon, but it was a white intellectual intelligentsia. So the government said, we got to stop this thing. So what they do is, They come in and they set up the Timothy McVeigh thing and link it with some skinheads and link it with some deranged crackers. And then they blow up that building. And when they blew up the building in Oklahoma, immediately, and when they just select, all they got to do is Timothy McVeigh. Any society is an open society. That means anybody can come in. Let's say if you white people and you white militia, that means these other white people can come in. They can be hobnobbing with you. They can be in the militia for a couple of months. Go off, blow up the building, and they link that person, that single cell, with the greater group, and then they can say, well, they blew up the building in Oklahoma, and immediately they started talking about these militias. The militias not knowing what's going on, they're getting all the air time and all the fatigues on, and the militias were strong all over the country. And these were white intellectual intelligentsia groups fighting against a new world order. But what happened was they blew up the building, and when they blew up the Oklahoma building, it cast this extremist shadow over them. And when it cast that extremist shadow over them, then what happened was they were able to break the infrastructure of the militia, and they went to, and when they was getting ready, now remember now, all this shit is going down, and they just executed Timothy McVeigh in the spring of the year. So they did a revisit to the militia, who they said was almost like thousands. I mean, it was almost like, they said it was almost 10,000 strong. 14,000 strong in the Michigan militia alone. When they came back, it was barely a couple of hundred. So they could break that militia. You see what I'm saying? They could break that militia. They broke the infrastructure of the Nation of Islam. Remember now, because when the Timothy McVeigh thing went down, they was looking at the Nation of Islam, they was looking at any groups that they call anti-government. You see what I'm saying? Or what we call aware of the government. And remember, one of the first people that they did when the Oklahoma building went down was they had a Nation of Islam as a part of the group. Meanwhile, Nation of Islam is reduced down to an apologetic system where Farrakhan is going all over the country apologizing.
Right. To who?
To Europeans, to the white people.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, to make sure that they can weaken the force, King Khalid comes out against Khalid Muhammad.
Right.
Farrakhan comes, all this shit is connected. Farrakhan comes out, and he doggone chastises Khalid Muhammad and reprimands him nationally.
Right.
Put him out in the open, and they set up the assassination in the summer of the same year out in California, and they shoot him.
Yeah.
And he ends up just getting shot in the leg, so they missed the attempt. But it was a white Jew, it was a Jewish organization that paid the guy's hospital bill. You see what I'm saying? And Farrakhan didn't even go and visit his right-hand man, his general, in the doggone hospital.
Right. See?
Right.
Okay? Meanwhile, February comes, and they set up the assassination to Khalid Muhammad in February, because if you're going to do this Muslim thing, you can't have any people that can cast light on the government and show it for what it is. So you got to you got to weaken all roads of infrastructure. Whereas if they're going to pull this terrorist thing, it's got to be a certain way they got to do it. You see what I'm saying? It's got to be a certain way that they got to do it. You see? So you have to. So you can't have any forms of an outside agitator, as they would say, or a person that will come out and start speaking that would actually wake the people's eyes up, or open the people's eyes to what's really going on, which is lockdown time. So all of a sudden, Khalid Muhammad mysteriously dies. But it's very interesting here, because I spoke in New York. Now, I damn near had to get wrestled out of New York when the shit went down. But it's interesting, because I get a call from Khalid Muhammad's right-hand woman, Malika. And this is the woman who was number 2 in charge of the Black Panther Party that he started. All of a sudden, she came out and she explained on how this man was murdered. We're going to get into that in a few minutes. But all of a sudden, this stuff is all going down at the same time that they come to this grand finale. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is, going back to this thing, because you've all seen all the stuff that went out, that went on TV. Remember now, 50% of the stuff that went on the TV that they crafted is different than stuff that went on that day. Number one, 60% of the people in the building that died were black people. Because they said if the building was open for business, if they would have hit it at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, they would have got the general public, because this was the World Trade Center, and it was open for business. And 6,000 people died. Can you imagine how many people, and these are workers, can you imagine how many people it is that does business, and they need 6,000 workers to come in and transact business with the actual general public? So in so many words, if 6,000 people died, they said if they would have hit, none of these were workers, they said if they would have hit the building at 10 o'clock, they would have had a fiasco.
Right.
It would have been a disaster. Now, majority of the workers was there at a particular time. Remember now, they just announced in the USA Today yesterday that 4,000 Jews didn't even show up. Right. Including your whole financial wizards. Didn't even show up. At all. 4,000 people don't show up. You see what I'm saying? And they announced this shit. Now, that means if they would have hit the building at 11 o'clock, it would have been a great disaster, but they knew the majority of the people at that particular time. Number one, the bulk of the people that's opening up is your workers, and at that particular, it's a whole lot of black people at that particular time. As a matter of fact, when I was up there, a lot of people were saying the majority of the people, they knew dozens of people that worked in the World Trade Center. You see what I'm saying? So the World Trade Center was about like damn near Grand Central Station. Grand Central Station, about like Port Authority bus terminal. It was just such a major discourse for doggone employment. Right. That black people was in it, and they said 60% of the people that died were black people. That's why they still ain't showing you the damn bodies. You see what I'm saying? They didn't show nobody the bodies and stuff like that. No, but I'm gonna get your question right now. But one thing about it, like I said, they were giving the mass blood drives all over the country. But there's only one thing. The sister said, she reported to me. She said, I am home now because they ain't finding nothing but legs, torsos, head, arms, fingers, but whatever it did, it completely demolished whoever was in the building. Also, going back, they had the guy on BET that said he saved 50 people in his apartment because when the building went down, they told all of them to go to the high floors. And he said, wait, this shit don't sound right. They all got the hell on out of there. And only one person in their whole apartment died. But yet, they were telling people to go to the high floors. As well as when the thing went down, they were telling the people to go back inside the building. And they said also, too, you got to understand this, that is the reason why, now don't be fooled by it. These are professional firefighters. And they said the reason why they lost so many firefighters, they said because they rushed in the building because they had no idea that the building was going to fall. Now, a building that tall or whatever, they say, well, whatever you say, they said they had enough time to get everybody out of that motherfucker. But when I saw it on the news, they was showing these orange lights going off on each floor. And one of the brothers said, hey, they're detonating stuff. And the guy on the news that morning said, hey, there's bombs going off in the building. Sure did. See, they wipe all that out later on. But like I said, we got to look at this thing because there's no way, if you say it's perfectly imploded, like you blow down stuff. Right. You see what I'm saying? If they perfectly implode things, you can say, well, nah, you don't know what happened. A plane hit a building, but my point here is it can't happen twice. See, maybe the other building would have tipped over or something. But I'm not stupid. It would have tipped over. It would have tipped over something, but I'm not stupid. They was not ready for it in 1993 when they only blew up the garage. Don't tell me that these same people can be that sophisticated to blow this thing up and they only blew the garage up in 1993. The parking lot in 1993. Lightning don't strike twice. I'm trying to say is, this is the same building they blew up in 1993. What the hell is it doing when it blow up again? You see what I'm saying? They only blew up the garage, but that was fake anyway. Get the movie, because they always put it on the movie. Get the movie Long Kiss Goodnight. In the movie, at the end of the movie, they got an arrow in a gas truck, dead, and they're going to run the gas truck into the Arab invasion by running the Arab and the gas truck into the World Trade Center. So this thing is all set up. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's all set up. What's that?
I don't know if you want to say it was fortunate or whatever, but my business trip to New York was that same time. I left Indianapolis on the 8th. I was due to come back on the 11th that evening.
Right.
So me and my girlfriend, you know, we're stuck up there. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff was going down.
Same with me.
This is what happened before I left. I can't believe this, but Spirit told me to pack my binoculars. And I'm saying, why do I need to be packing some binoculars when I'm going on a buying trip? I'm not going sightseeing, you know. But I just listened to Spirit, throw them on in there. Just had recently purchased the binoculars to go see Erica Badu. So I threw them in the bag. Now, Tuesday morning, I get up, you know, because this happened early in the morning. I keep it on New York 1 because it got the time and temperature on that on that station. So I'm hearing that, you know, a plane hit one of the trade towers.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, I'm not believing this. Like everybody kept saying, it was like a movie, you know.
Right.
So a few minutes later, the other tower gets hit. You know, so people are calling in and everything, because everybody's getting on the phone. So I'm just kind of looking in a disbelief, you know, at this point. And I was in Manhattan.
Yes.
Okay. I stayed on 27th Street, between Broadway and 6th. So, you know, I said, you know, I'm really not, you know, taking the full impact of it. I get dressed. I said, I'm going across the street and get me some coffee. So when I get to the corner, 6th Avenue and Broadway this way, 6th Avenue this way. There's a group of people standing on the corner, staring down 6th Avenue. So I go over there because when you cross the street, you can look straight down at the trade center. And so I said, this is why I got my binoculars. So I go back to the room, get my binoculars, and I'm standing there because one tire had already fell down. There's only one tire still standing up. So I'm looking through my binoculars at the one that's still standing, and it's flames, like you said, shooting out. And I'm always connected to some type of media. So I had my headphones on, and I was listening to the broadcast, what they were saying was going on. Said the same thing you said that about some bombs. They said this on this day.
They said it on the news.
Exactly. They said so because people was asking me what was happening because I had the headphones on. So at the same time they talking about bombs that hit the bottom and that's why it's falling. I'm hearing they breaking in talking about the Pentagon getting hit.
Right.
You know, so I couldn't believe that I was there.
And you know, it's interesting because I'm there the same time I did my lecture there. I came in on the 7th, did the lecture on the 8th. Supposed to fly out an hour after. The bomb was supposed to fly at 12:30. They locked down the airport, which is interesting here. The day before, my business partner was with me, and she was up there, and she left out, she left out to get back to her children that Monday. I stayed to that Tuesday. When we was down there, we had gone that Monday, we went to the World Trade Center, and we went to the financial district. And we did most of the filming at the financial district. On the way walking up, I saw this perfect picture of the World Trade Center. I said, and now she had it's interesting because she took her video camera. And we did a whole documentary down there. I said, get a picture of the World Trade Center. For some reason. Because the shot was so mysterious. They had this thing that looked like a colonnade, the Champs-Élysées in Paris. You know, that colonnade the cars go under. They had this thing and it was right there, and it was right in front of the World Trade Center. I said, get a shot of that, and I got a shot, and I talked about it. And the next doggone morning, this thing goes down. The next morning, this thing goes down and all, and then they automatically start locking down New York, and they locked down the whole city.
I couldn't believe it. Nothing could come in. They locked up the
They locked us right.
We couldn't get out, so no road transportation could come and get us, and we were stuck there.
But the key is, I wasn't able to leave till that Friday, but they started talking about Bin Laden before the second building fell. I'm like, damn, you all did the same thing And they even named the Nation of Islam in the building, in the Oklahoma bombing, come to find out it's a cracker. And one guy on the deck said, well, don't be, he said, well, we can't be this hasty now and say, start pointing the finger, because it might be some doggone crackers in Michigan, or something, might be some militia group, we gotta add them in. Right. Somebody in our own border. But all of a sudden they started naming the man's name. Now, because we're going to get into now, we're going to get into some spiritual side of this today, to try to understand this whole jihad thing and stuff like this and all, because it's all connected. It's all connected. But the key here is, number one, it was done on the 11th. 911 was done on the 11th, because 9 plus 1 plus 1 is 11. It's perfect 11. Mm-hmm. The damn 2 towers were 11. The 2 buildings were 11. But the point I'm trying to make here is, America could not get as lucky as the building being imploded, because if it would have hit on a natural wave, it would have been a greater disaster, because those buildings were supposed to fall.
Like the domino.
Like the domino effect. It was supposed to fall, but it was perfect implosion. You see what I'm saying? Now, the key here is, we need to look at other side. I want to get some other questions and answers right now. Any other questions and answers right now? We want to get some stuff to get this thing going and all, because right now we are locked into a certain aspect. Like I said yesterday, I go to the airport. Like I said, now I knew that they was looking for me at the airport in New York, but I rode out of New York with a sister. We rode back down together. But I go to the airport this time, and my suspicions was right. Well, my suspicion was right that side because the police cars came all to my house and stuff. But my suspicion was right based on the airport, because when I went to go get the, go log in to come up here yesterday morning, I tell her my name and she types it in the computer, and the first thing she says is, you are cited for your bags to be searched. I'm like, well, I just got here. So that means that they have a certain checkpoint against certain names. You see what I'm saying? Or what they call subversive groups, or any type of people that speak out against anything that can be a major threat. And all of a sudden I said, damn, what is the odds? Because the first thing I said was, well, are you searching all of that? And they said, no. And I said, well, damn. She said, but you were signed for your bag to get searched. And the black girl, she must have thought that she was telling a little too much. Because then the next thing she said was, the computers randomly pick people. I'm like, well, wait a minute, hold on. If the computers randomly pick people, you can have the damn, if this just say hypothetically, if there was such thing as a terrorist can go on and you can pick the wrong person.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But you're just so convenient to pick me. You see what I'm saying? So my point is they're gearing up for this type of thing. But I'm saying they're gearing up for this type of thing, number one. We talked about this yesterday. They're gearing up for this type of thing not necessarily because they're just so scared of terrorism. They're gearing up to, you got the heat on now?
No, is it hot?
No, yeah, it's hot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I just cut the air off. I thought it was cold.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, you know how they bring heat. So anyway, remember now, the key here is, because one of the brothers came up and said, now wait a minute now, because all the white people, even some of the black people, why the beast don't take its own self out? But they don't understand, like I said yesterday, that we must understand that this thing here is not based on the United States of America, this thing is based on Europe. They got the euro dollar going now, and Europe is united, and so therefore, as far as they're concerned, the people over here, you understand what I'm saying? It's scrap metal. They're to be sacrificed. They are expendable. You see what I'm saying? Because now it's based on Europe. That is why they're letting the damn Mexicans in. So, but we also know, based on the spiritual aspect and based on what the science is saying, that it's going to be a group of black people that will rise up, that will redeem the entire universe, as the Hermetic material says also. Somebody give me some paper napkins also, you know, white girl. You see what I'm saying? To redeem the universe. So we know that there's certain signs when this stuff go down, that they gotta put things on lockdown. We're gonna go into that also tonight also too. And give me some more questions and all, you know, because we still want to generate a certain amount of things and all. Yeah, what's that? You have a question, Sanu?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have a question. So, what do you think? Where actually do we go from here?
My firm belief is that some things you just can't prepare for physically. I think that the aware people, I think it's a spiritual thing now. And I'm not talking about spirituality as far as prayer. Because I'm going to be honest with you. There's a reason why they told everybody, why all of a sudden they tell everybody to pray? All the damn people dead.
That's right.
Why all of a sudden you stop calling this is contradiction? Why are you saying God bless America? Wait a minute. It shit done happen. See, to me, that's a nigga that knows something's going on. So they said, God bless America. They got the children in school singing this shit. You see what I'm saying? So the point I'm trying to make is, why you gonna say God bless America? When supposedly you didn't do nothing wrong, supposedly. Right. And everybody's attacking you, but all of a sudden, they got mass prayers now. This is the key. During the summer solstice, and during this particular time, they have mass rituals and festivals. They put these festivals and stuff because these festivals keep this physical world or this matrix strong. And I'm going to go into some of this stuff here as far as some certain gods and some renegade gods. But these festivals last most of the summer, but they start ending up around Labor Day. But all of a sudden, this bombing comes on. This is the spiritual side. I'm going to answer your question. And then all of a sudden, this creates an entire new phenomenon for more festivals. Prayer, candle visuals, the movie stars raising $100 million. The American spirit, they got, each city is chipping in with their own type of showing the people that we can come together and all this close. All of a sudden, we close with crackers. They've been kicking y'all in the ass for years now. And all of a sudden, we all close with crackers now.
And run out and put the flag on.
And all this thing. But those are rituals and festivals that's actually going on. Now, that's one thing I just want to reiterate, because we're looking at this thing here. But